Hi, everyone. Welcome to CISO Talks. It's Alex here. I want to welcome Richard. Thank you for coming, Richard. I'll let you introduce yourself quickly.
Thank you for having me, Alex. My name is Richard Hollis, and I'm a director at a company called Risk Crew here in London. We do things like threat assessments, risk analysis, all the way down to penetration testing.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Well, today I think, and this is something you want to talk about, Richard, and talk a little bit about this, and you want to kind of discuss a little bit. We've seen breaches really increase over the past few years, and it's exponential, to be honest. And a lot of vendors, a lot of people are spending a lot of money on vendors, and really understanding, why are they spending more money and why breach is still going up and who should be responsible?
Yeah, Alex, I should also say, Alex, I've been doing this for almost 30 years. 30 years that I've had a view on the cybersecurity industry. So it's not that I've formed an opinion of, negativity in the last 2 years. I just haven't seen us do this right. Okay. So I'm getting at that point in my life where I look back on my profession and look back on what I did right and wrong. And I want to take pride in what I've done. And as you said, the breaches alone, you look at this and say, what are we doing right? What is the cybersecurity industry really? What are we doing right? And I don't see a lot of reason to feel that we've done a good job. Breaches. Let me put it this way: if the objective of the cybersecurity industry is to prevent breaches of systems and data loss, well, how can you feel anything else except that we failed, that the industry has failed? And this is where I'm coming from. The cybersecurity industry as it's currently structured just doesn't work. It doesn't meet the goals and objectives of stopping breaches and preventing data loss. It doesn't. The breaches alone are for me, hard evidence of that fact. Yeah. Year after year, Alex, we spend more and more and more money. And year after year, the breaches go up and up and up. And that's an inverse relationship. I'm not an economics major, but from where I come from, you spend more money to fix a problem, the problem should start to reduce. Yeah. And the fact that that's opposite really should disturb anybody. But I think the latest thing I saw, Alex, privacyrights.org issued late last fall a statement that we've lost over 14 billion personnel records in the last 5 years alone.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, well, when you consider there's only, 8 million on the planet?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not good. If we've already lost twice the number of, personnel records than we have on people walking around the face of the planet, maybe the cybersecurity industry is not fit for purpose. So, yeah, I've got a strong perspective of what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And what we're doing wrong seems to be everywhere I look.
Yeah, yeah. And just narrowing down into some of those things, what do you feel like some of those things that they are doing wrong and we are doing wrong?
Well, for me, there's like 4 or 5 elements of the industry. There's our vendors, there's our managed service providers, there's our internet service providers, there's the businesses themselves, and then there's us as end users, as consumers of that industry, right? And for me, just start at the top with vendors. I think it's clear to me that cybersecurity product vendors are selling us products that don't work. And when I mean that, I'm not being harsh. I'm saying they're just not fit for purpose. They don't get the job done.
Yeah, I think when we look at it quite a lot of times as well is some of the marketing things that we see. And sometimes, it looks like it does this. This would be perfect. And looking through some of that marketing kind of rubbish is so difficult. Yeah.
Exactly. We've been sold that marketing, message since the day that we all signed on to the internet. What does secure internet mean? A firewall. We bought the firewall, and suddenly what does secure internet mean? It's an intrusion detection system. Oh, no, it's an intrusion prevention system. It's always something. You need to. The cybersecurity industry sells products to fix the problem. Okay, and the product's always based on attacks that happened last year, the year before, and the year before that. They're never current. They're out of sync. By the time they come out with a new anti-malware signature, our threat actors have moved on and they're using a different.
I think we see that quite a lot, don't we, in cybersecurity, is it's quite reactive rather than proactive. And I think it's with companies as well. A lot of budget is available if a breach has happened and they're reactive. But when it comes to proactive, the budget's not quite as big as what it should be, I think. And that's the problem we have in cybersecurity. A lot of the time, it's very reactive.
That's it. They're always, and I get it. I understand why. I understand it takes you have to go into R&D and you have to come up with a next generation firewall or antivirus or whatever it is, and you've invested in that, and you need to take that to market, and that has to produce a return for you. So you're going to keep pushing that product until it gives you the return that you spent on R&D. It's just natural. I get it. I get it. But the point is, at the end of the day, I feel like our vendors sell us knives to take to gunfights, right?
Yeah.
We always show up to the cybersecurity fight and we're underwhelmed with our tools, because our threat actors have moved on. They've moved on, and we don't keep pace. We don't keep up with the ingenuity. We don't keep up with the creativity of our threat actors.
Yeah.
It's what our vendors sell us to take to this fight, and quite frankly, it's not up for the fight. It's just not. It is. There's also an oxymoron, I think, that we don't, as consumers, that we don't focus on. Is at the end of the day, cybersecurity vendors profit from the insecurity of computing. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. The more breaches we have, the more financially benefit. Look at all the top 5 vendors in our industry, and their share increase and their price increase dramatically rises after every WannaCry or NoPetya, after any big issue that we all struggle with, their share prices increase. Now, why do they make money from breaches? Why don't they make money from stopping breaches?
Yeah.
And that's an it's kind of like
so it's publicity, isn't it, as well? You see, like, publicity comes around with a data breach, whereas there's not much publicity made of, oh, this vendor stopped a breach, like, well done kind of thing. We don't see that.
They're not incentivized to stop breaches.
Yeah.
When we all suffer from a big breach or from ransomware, their profits go through the roof. Why? Because we all freak out because we have ransomware. Let me stop and say, what's ransomware? It's malware. Yeah. Do you know anybody who's not running anti-malware on their systems, and yet they get ransomware? And we're not talking about, wait a minute, maybe this is because our anti-malware products don't work. Yeah. And why aren't they part of this conversation? But no, we all freak out. We set our hair on fire. And what do? We knee-jerk reaction. We go out and buy more more anti-malware products. So we buy and buy and buy to fix this problem, and they feed that hunger that we have. We have a breach because we based it on technology. The technology doesn't work. We have, and what do we do to fix it? We go out and buy more technology. Yeah. And it's this circle of failure that we're caught in year after year after year. Yeah. It's very clear to me. It's an odd thing. And I tell you, the other place I look at is go to Google and type in any one of the top 10, 20 vendors in our cybersecurity industry. Every single one of them have had a breach in the last 18 months. Every single one of these name brands that we go out and buy, and look at the firewall vendors who've had these huge 0-day vulnerabilities. Yeah. What's a 0-day vulnerability, Alex? An unknown. Please tell me how a vendor of anything, a manufacturer of any product, can have an unknown thing in the product they sell us. So part of the problem is these vendors that we look to for leadership and for products that don't work. They're not leaders. They're not shepherds. They're sheep. They're as lost as we are. They're not, they're their own. They can't protect their own systems from getting breached, much less sell us something to protect ours. Yeah. So it's that kind of evidence that I look around in my industry, and the industry that I've spent 30 years in, thinking this is just on its head. It's topsy-turvy. It doesn't make sense, and it's led because the vendors in our industry have failed us.
Yeah, and I definitely see that. I come across that. I think that one of the scary things that I've seen as well recently with you saying that the vulnerabilities of some of the vendors is that as we move a lot towards SaaS, a lot of these on-premise kind of solutions they've forgotten about them. They don't have the updates anymore and stuff like that. And if companies can't afford to move to that SaaS or don't want to move to that SaaS, they're left with a vulnerability flawed solution. So. Yeah,
that's it. And when you look at the products that we run out to buy, firewalls, the antivirus, the anti-malware, all of that stuff, and then we go ahead and we watch our businesses put our information assets into these SaaS products that are carved out from the oversight of these. Do you know any intrusion detection system that covers Salesforce?
Yeah.
No,
there isn't. Yeah.
And so it's a dichotomy. We're putting our information assets in SaaS products, and then we're securing architectures that don't have what we should be protecting it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And who knows? The getting back to this, we've got vendors and to include SaaS. This is what we all learned from SolarWinds. We've got a trusted product, and that trusted product doesn't even have a secure back end. And when you've got trusted vendors who aren't practicing secure by design and have things like zero-day vulnerabilities, they become attack vectors of choice. Why? Yeah. Because we trust those products. We trusted SolarWinds, we trust Fortinet, we trust SonicWall, we trust all these big vendors that we go out and buy products from. And if they got a backdoor, that's the best. If I'm Joe Attack Vector, Joe Threat Actor, that's exactly what I'm looking for. A trusted entry and exit for data.
Because you're not just entering one company, you're
that's
entering
right. That's right. It's the lazy threat actors approach to hacking, and it works. And it's just so. I'm a little disappointed, Alex.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense, and kind of leading on to that, I think that you've made a really good point before when we had a previous conversation that we see a lot of these companies that get fined when they have a breach, and they're the ones that are responsible. Why are vendors not responsible at the end of the day? When someone says we can stop malware, why are some of these companies not responsible? I know it's difficult because one company might have 60 to 80 different cybersecurity vendors that they're using at the time. So how do you sort of make it down to who is responsible? But I think it's quite an interesting conversation, that one.
But Alex, as it is currently, no one's responsible. There is absolutely, this is an industry that doesn't ask for any accountability. If you buy, I think when we were talking before, I said, if you buy a flat screen TV, you take it home, it doesn't work. What do? You take it back. And yet if you buy a firewall that's supposed to prevent traffic from a certain port and you get traffic through that point, what do? You live with it. You buy another firewall. Why is it we have this vendor, we have no accountability, much less liability. Like we were talking about ransomware. Ransomware is malware. If we get ransomware, why aren't we picking up the phone and calling our anti-malware product vendor and saying, I'm sorry, I bought your product to stop malware and I just got ransomware and it shut down my business. I think you're accountable to me for the impact on my business. We don't have that. As consumers, why aren't we asking for that? Why aren't we demanding that? That same customer satisfaction that we see anywhere in the industry. I tell us, I've got a brother who he will return a glass of Coke because it doesn't have enough ice in it or too much ice in it. And yet when it comes to, protecting, he's got a small business, when it comes to suddenly getting a denial of service, he doesn't pick up the phone and call his internet service provider and said, you sold me an internet connection that is full with a DDoS attack. You saw the originating IP. You see my IP. You could stop that. Internet's like a utility. It's like water or electricity. I mean, if water pipes broke from the city and flooded your home, you'd demand that,
It is a very important thing to think about. You don't think about that, do you? Actually, when you look at it everyday life, you do take things back that are faulty, that don't work, that don't do what they say they're going to do. And why is that not the case in cybersecurity? It really is.
I don't get it. And that's what I'm saying. I blame us. I blame myself. I blame all of us in the industry for A, buying stuff that doesn't work, and B, not taking it back and saying, I want better. I want better. It's like when I was a kid growing up, we didn't have seatbelts in cars. I'm not kidding you. We didn't have seatbelts in cars, and people were going through the windshield at 20 miles an hour, and people were dying in traffic accidents where they're going 20 or 30 miles an hour until somebody said, hey, how about some seatbelts? But Detroit was like, well, we don't want to spend money. It's not about secure, cars, safe cars. But now look at until the consumer started saying, this is enough, and now we've got, anti-lock brakes and airbags and it's until we ask for it, we're not going to get it. And so, Alex, that's what I'm getting old. I'm getting cranky, and I realize the problems in the cybersecurity industry are things that I've allowed. We should have all asked for better. We should have all demanded better. First time a firewall let traffic through a port it shouldn't have been, and it was correctly configured. We should have taken it back and said, not only no, but hell no, I want my money back.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's the best form, especially for these vendors, to hear from their customers and say, look, this hasn't worked. This is where it came through. That's how we improve as vendors at the end of the day, is listening to customers. And if that's not the case and they don't know that this is happening, then I suppose it's quite difficult for them to know that, all right, this is coming through, or this is coming through, or this is a new piece of malware, or this. I think that
the cybersecurity industry, in my mind, it's a lot like the pharmaceutical industry. They make a lot of money on selling us products that treat the symptoms. the colds, the viruses, the sniffles, the sneezes, the headaches,
and nothing stops it.
Exactly. If there were a pill tomorrow to stop the common cold, there's not a lot of money in that to be made in the pharmaceuticals. Not when they're making billions and billions selling those cough syrup and antihistamines and things. And that's what I think that analogy is apt for the cybersecurity industry. Make a lot of money selling us on things to stop the little bits and deal with the little bits and pieces. But frankly, when's the last real solution you've seen come out?
Yeah, I suppose on that though, there is at the minute no magic bullet, really, is there? There's nothing to say that like this will stop absolutely everything, and I think that's why we see so many different vendors in the market, because they do slightly different things. And actually, if we had one big solution that would save everything, I suppose that
no, and that you're right, and I'm not advocating. I'm not saying in technology there's one silver bullet. I don't believe that. But what I believe is we're not realistically understanding we need 3 bullets. We all agreed that cybersecurity is about people, process, and technology. We've been talking for the last 10 minutes on technology problems, not process problems or people problems. But in general, what I'm saying is because we're a vendor-led industry and the vendors want to sell us technology, and I'm complaining that the technology doesn't work, and that's the reason where we are today in the industry. I would also say that we are neglecting the other 2/3 of the attack vectors, our people and our process. And I would stop and say, hey, have you seen anybody do anything really effective in security education, security awareness? It's the big gripe of our industry. Oh, sure, our people, we can't trust our people. Well, do so. Here's my complaint number 27 is have you ever seen a company that takes, say they have a budget of 100K, 100,000 pounds for a small business to spend on cybersecurity?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen them split that in 3 and say, we'll spend 1/3 of that on technology, 1/3 of that on our process, and 1/3 of that on
it's probably people. 99% on
technology. It's on technology because these are the messages we get. Buy this firewall to protect your whatever, your servers. Yeah. And so because we're told what to buy, we neglect the other 2/3 of the problem.
Yeah.
And so that's also why the products don't work. But the other part of why year after year, the breaches continually increases. Year after year, we continually neglect the other 2, our people in our process.
Yeah. I think it's interesting talking about the people. My last conversation when I was on CISO Talks was a guy talking about how to get people to go into cybersecurity. We see a lot of people wanting to go to cybersecurity sales and that kind of thing, and there's not a shortage there. But actually, how do we get younger people into cybersecurity so we can get more people through and get people to actually want to be into cybersecurity? I think it's quite an interesting conversation. And like you said, the budget's a lot there for technology, but not necessarily there for people and training these people.
It's the first litmus test I look at when I talk to a new client. How'd you spend your budget last year? Just show me it in thirds. And I've never ever seen some. I see 90%, and then sometimes I see a 10%, a 5%, a 3% budget toward a computer-based training, which hasn't changed in the last 30 years. So and so of course there are no new ideas because there's no money to be made for vendors in security awareness training ideas and solutions, and that's it. Until we as consumers start to ask for more, we're never going to get it. And so I'll go back and say, I think we're all to blame for an industry that doesn't work. I'm not pointing a finger to vendors. They're just going to do where they make money. And until we incentivize them to deliver products that work to make money, we'll never see the quality increase and to give us other products that we need to cover the other two attack vectors that we just overlook year after year. I don't see it's going to be any better. And then bang, AI comes along. And once again, we're going to be a bolt-on. Throughout the 30 years of my career, it's been internet first, security second. Then, it's Bluetooth. It's Wi-Fi.
There's always something new.
Cloud. Yeah. Technology comes and we don't practice secure by design. We never consider the security elements or components, the potential vulnerabilities of a technology before we embrace it fully by our businesses. And by then it's too late. Then we got to bolt on some security, and that's where vendors sell us. They sell us these bolts. Here's bolt this on, bolt that on, bolt that on, because we move into technology first without security. And now AI comes along, and that's that just changes the whole future of what the industry looks like.
I think it's interesting, like you said, the kind of increase in different things that have come out. And I think a lot of it comes down to this is going to make productivity easier. Let's just implement this. Let's get this going to make people's lives easier rather than, like you said, thinking about the actual outcomes that this could have.
The outcomes, right. But you know what else, Alex? To me, the underlying premise here that's missing from all of these conversations is this isn't about, the cybersecurity industry isn't about securing ones and zeros. This is about data about people's lives, about your life, about my life, about my wife, my kids, my mother, my grandmother. This is about, this is real data that once we lose it, the effect on our people's lives from losing their medical data, their dental records to their DNA has a significant impact on their future, on our society's future. And this lack of responsibility, about we have a moral responsibility to protect this data because this is data about people's lives that we process, store, and transmit in our systems. I think that's what's shockingly missing from every conference I've ever been to in the last 30 years. No one talks about, they talk about, well, now we're talking, sensitive personal data and personal. Yeah, still, we're not making the leap into.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the people side of it, like you said, I had a conversation actually with someone yesterday and she didn't really understand what would happen if my data did get breached. And there's a lot of outcomes that can happen. I mean, at the end of the day, you could see somebody steal your identity, take credit cards out in your name,
and
lots of different stuff. And then at the end of the day, like you said, it's your livelihood. You could then go, someone's steal your identity and now you owe $200,000 pounds in.
But it also, on a larger scale, yes, there's this not identity theft, but there's, your future options. I come from, in the US, you can't get health insurance. And, if Facebook is selling, data scraping about people who sneeze or have asthma and they suddenly can't get health insurance, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So, whether, what you believe in, what's your religious affiliation, your sexual preference, all of this determines your opportunities in life, down to your postcode, whether you're going to get an application to a college or a mortgage accepted, so this is once this data is lost and the impact, people don't understand the impact it might have on their lives until over the course of time. They may look back and thought, I always wanted to, how come I never got into pre-med school? It would have changed my life.
Like you said, I just don't think people understand, do they? They don't, I mean, you look on TV, you're watching TV and there's ads on TV. There's never any ads on TV about making sure that you're aware of where your data is and things like that.
No.
If someone asks for your email address online and they want your address straight in, people put it straight in. People don't really understand the
convenience. Yeah, and that's we all said, okay, nobody reads terms and conditions. Nobody reads. I get it. We want the convenience of whatever it is that we're doing to give away our personal data. But we've been doing this for 20 years now.
Yeah,
and I think we should look around and say, is this really convenient yet? We got Jeff Bezos telling us the next book we're going to buy or the next Netflix that we're going to watch. And I get it. It's made our lives easier, but at what cost? And I don't think that cost is first and foremost in our minds as consumers. And until it is, and we start asking for more, we don't understand that this kind of data, as long as it equals cash, that our personal data equals cash to our vendors. And we still don't think, well, of course, then if it equals cash to the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Jeff Bezoses, of course it's going to equal cash to somebody, a threat actor. The data equals cash. Doesn't matter if the good guys or the bad guys are making the money on it.
Data's the most valuable.
Exactly, and until we make that distinction and understand that intrinsically our personal data is valuable to others who want to use
anybody,
right?
Like you said,
good or bad. Exactly. We make that distinction. We were led down the lane for here's another convenience. I'm going to tell you the next book you're going to read. By just letting me place this cookie in your browser. Okay, I get it. We're dumb. We're lazy. We like the luxury of not having to think and look for a book ourselves or whatever. It doesn't matter at this point, but we've had 20 years of that. Yeah. And it really hasn't changed our lives that significantly that we thought that. And now when we see, I can't get health insurance, because Amazon has sold them that I've been reading up on, know, how to hypnotize yourself out of whatever it is. I just think that we would have learned by now as consumers, okay, there's a price we've paid in the past, but we want to stop paying it now. Just like, hey, we've gone through the windshields at 20 miles an hour, and we want to stop that now. Yeah. We realize how fun it is to drive, but we also realize there are accidents that can happen, and driving can be a hazardous thing. And maybe we need safety features, and not just asking for them, but demanding them. And until we do that, we're not going to get it.
No, and I think it's hard, isn't it? Like you said, if the seatbelt thing, someone goes for the window screen, they hurt themselves. I think when it comes to cybersecurity and your data getting breached, it's really hard to put a value on that personally. It's really hard to actually know that happened, really. I mean, like you said, you're searching on Amazon, all these different things about what health, and you can't get healthcare insurance. Well, people don't associate them together, do you? That's the thing. And it's very difficult to associate them together. And I think that's why
it's very difficult to understand that you pay for every Google search one way or another.
Yeah.
Like Google looks at what you search for and sells that. And that may or may not have an impact on your opportunities later in life, whatever your age is, or, whether it's something as practical as insurance, home insurance, or health care, or whatever it is. But you don't know. Most times you don't know because you're not aware that a decision was made about your life.
Yeah.
And therefore you've got an opportunity. Okay. But you need to go out there and look, and you need to be educated and understand the impact it can have on your personal life, your professional life.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people don't connect the dots between what they do and the impact it could have.
I think, like you said, it comes down to convenience, doesn't it? It's so convenient to be able to go on Google and search something, and it's so convenient to put something into a website and your email address.
Which makes me sound so grumpy and cynical. No, you're right. It does. Yeah. We're animals of convenience. It's going to be really hard to change our ways.
Yeah.
But we need leadership. We need tireless consumer advocates, and I think it starts with us, with you, with me, turning to our vendors, turning to our, the people who are in our industry and asking for more, implementing that same level of consumer excellence that, my brother has when he sends back a Coke because it has too much ice or not enough ice in it. Yeah. If we were like that with firewalls, if we were like that with all these things that we buy, the change in the effectiveness and the efficiency of these things would have to change, but we have to incentivize them.
Yeah, I mean, you see it, don't you? I mean, you have sort of customer success in a lot of the vendors, and a lot of that is around customer success and making sure they're doing well, but there's not really a path for that side of customer success of, I would like a refund, or look, you're not doing this very well. Can we do this? Yeah. It's mainly driven around making sure that it works, or making sure they renew the next year, rather than actually looking at.
It's that circle. I've come to think of it as a circle of failure. Yeah. We fail to formulate an actual strategy, fail to understand our risk appetite and align a strategy to that. We mistake technology for strategy. We implement technology, doesn't work. And so we have breaches. And what do? We buy more technology. Yeah. And we go around and round and round and round again.
I think also as well, like we previously spoke about, it comes a lot too of if a vendor has stopped a breach and helped stop a breach, that no one ever hears about that, and no one ever understands what they did well to be able to actually stop that breach. And I think that's the difficult thing sometimes, is that we don't actually see some of the good stuff to carry on that good stuff, really. Yeah. It's quite interesting.
No, that is odd. No, that absolutely. And I don't see a fix for that. My point that, cybersecurity vendors profit from breaches. They do, when it should be the opposite. They should profit by zero breaches. It should be and can you imagine buying a product, and if you had no breaches, then you pay for it? If you had a breach, it's like, take me off that subscription model. It didn't work. It doesn't. But getting onto models like that are based on the efficiency of the product. Yeah. But if you don't have that, we buy a product, and when it doesn't work and we don't get our money back, we just buy another piece of kit. Yeah. Move that product out, move this product in, and try our chances.
Like you said, it's a circle, a vicious circle, isn't it? Really,
it's going to be hard to re-incentivize based on the performance. I just don't understand how we would do that. Yeah. Move to a model that is lucrative if the product worked. Because right now, the fact is, if the product doesn't work, the vendor makes money. And where's the incentive to make a better product? This looking at products now that have zero-day vulnerabilities of vendors who are not even practicing secure by design principles. You lose all respect for it. These are just, you might as well go out and buy a watermelon and put it and use it instead of a firewall, because it's just as effective at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, you're correct. I think, it's interesting. We talked, like you said, a lot about the technology side of it, quite a bit about the people. What does it sort of look like with the process and that kind of aspect of?
Well, for me, a process is defined as a procedure, like a business continuity, disaster recovery, incident response, testing these things. Did it work? In the event that we need this plan, does it work? Our disaster recovery plan, our business continuity plan, our incident response plan. Have you known a company that, other than a very, very sophisticated company who has the cash to test these plans year after year after year? To test that, that they're, whether it's a card access system, it's a piece of technology, connected to a process. We sign in visitors, we badge visitors, they use these proxy cards, that this is effective. So it's the process, the implementation of a process against the control that we neglect to test. Does this process work? Yeah. Can you get into our offices without a badge? When's the last time you checked that? And, while we see examples of that in phishing now, because vendors make money on selling anti-phishing products, test your, and they've come up with a way. Technically, that's, this is a good idea. And one of the few inroads I've seen is testing our end users for their vulnerabilities associated with falling for phishing.
Like a risk assessment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's great. Test. Phish your own employees. So other than that, I haven't seen a lot of inroads where we're concentrating on the process controls that we put into our business to make sure that they work, they produce evidence, and they continually, year after year after year, we put our finger on the pulse. No, I'm convinced we have totally overlooked our end users and just said, well, whatever happens when they sign on. And we've tried to deal with it with single sign-on, with multi-factor authentication, but at the end of the day, it's still heavily dependent on what the user does with that or doesn't do with that control. So this is what I mean. Across the board in general, process controls we neglect. People controls we neglect. Technology, hey, well, what do you got there to sell me? I'll take a look at that.
It sounds like a lot of the time that these technology vendors need to be tested themselves. And actually,
it is next generation this, cutting edge that, gens. Every year there's a new buzzword for some sort of technology that's going to be better than last year's. So it's a new reason to buy it. But so it turns last year's product into shelfware. You're going to shelf that. And by the time you train somebody up on this, that'll be next year when we're talking about a new shiny object that gets our attention. And I don't know. I'm simplifying, but I'm generalizing of what I've seen year after year for the last 30 years. And I don't see the next 2, 3, 4 years 5 years look any different. And, back to this AI elephant in the room, what are we going to do with that? Yeah. What are we going to do? What's in the the LLMs? What's in the code of the LLMs that every business is putting their arms around and using? And we're going to find that out. You'll be talking about that to the next guy after 5 years from now.
I think so, and I think that it's interesting, isn't it, with AI, because it's moving so quickly. That how do you ever really put some?
But isn't that yes, it's moving quickly. But Alex, everything moves quickly. When Wi-Fi came, it's moving quickly. When cloud came, it's everybody, bang, we're all on the cloud. And then we start talking about the security of the cloud. That's what it is. But 802, I remember when 802 was a big deal, the insecurity of 802 Wi-Fi. And we all had it, meaning it happened overnight. We adopted it very quickly. And so AI, but it's here now and it's happening. The problem with AI is it perpetuates itself. The more you use AI, the more, so it'll happen quicker. But in my lifetime, every technology, this is what we said, that happened quickly. Everybody's on 802. Really? Everybody's in the cloud. Really? So I'm not, I've heard it before and I agree with it. Absolutely. And I think it's going to be faster. But the fact is it happens overnight every single time. Yeah. And we are always, I'm shocked. I'm shocked AI, has security ramifications. Really? Really? Okay. I guess this is your first show. I don't see how we. It's like Memento. Is that movie where you wake up and you have no memory of the next day, the day before? That's what it feels like working in my industry.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like you said, you've been in the industry for 30 years, so you've seen a lot of changes through that time, and the new biggest thing, and there's always something, isn't there?
And I absolutely know how I come across. I sound jaded. I've lost my sense of humor, is what it is. and hey, let's put things in perspective. I run a consultancy that goes into businesses and they pay me to fix their problems. So I'm part of the industry. I'm absolutely part of the industry, which is why I feel so strongly about, process problems, people problems. No, I don't sell a product, but at the end of the day, I'm part of the industry. And, so this mirror I'm holding up to the industry, I'm holding up to myself. And in the services that we deliver, you have to, but I'm shocked at the buyer's lack of sophisticated of knowledge about what they want. They're very quickly led down the road, or you need this, or you need that. And while, sure, I'm selling things like penetration tests and supply chain risk assessments and these things, but at the end of the day, very few clients understand what those are.
I think so. And I think you mentioned it earlier, there's a lot of buzzwords in the industry. And as soon as people hear buzzwords, does that? Oh, yeah, we'll talk to you, or we'll do this. And I think that those buzzwords are not only heard by them, but heard by higher up and management and the people that have the money and the people that can say, yes, hear these buzzwords and go, we'll go down this route without actually exploring it as much as they probably should explore it. Which is, interesting, really. And it's an interesting thing, and an understanding what the right answer to fix this is. I don't know whether I personally don't know it. And
maybe I just need a good night's sleep. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's really interesting to understand the kind of three areas, the technology, process, and people, and how we probably have neglected those two, the last two, the process and the people. And really the technology is the main focus. And that's what you hear a lot about. And you go to these big trade shows, InfoSec, places like that, and however many technology vendors are there.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably count on one or two hands on how many look after the process and how many look after the people.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is they're there because we've been conditioned to ask for them. We've been conditioned to say the answer is technology.
Yeah,
there is no answer in people. I get so tired of saying you can't. People are idiots. Will never change their behavior. I'm tired of hearing that. Why don't we start asking for it? And process things. So I think it's a two-sided coin, how many analogies you need. But at the end of the day, our events are filled with people selling us something because we expect we can buy our way out of this cybersecurity problem. And so the two meet together and I'll buy yours if you do. Yeah. And then we both go away. One makes money and the other has breaches, So I'm thinking, how long does it have to take before we realize this needs to change?
Yeah.
And the change starts with us as consumers of these products. Until we start asking for better products, we're never going to get them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think it's quite interesting talking about that and saying you buy something off somebody else to try and stop that. I think a lot of the time we buy things because we're buying that, and then we're hoping the responsibility is on them, but it's not. In cybersecurity, if you buy a malware or you buy something like that, your still responsibilities with you, and you are still the one that's going to be responsible if a data breach happens. Yeah. Even though you're buying somebody else to kind of help you do that, they're not responsible. Or in the day and age that we're in, they're not responsible. It's still the company, and the CIO, the CISO, whoever it is still the responsible.
Right. And we're on CISO Talks. And one of the messages that CISOs are very famous for and should be very famous for are quantifying the return on their investments. Yeah. Quantifying the RSOI on the investment. And this is the key to consumer confidence. I'm going to buy this firewall, and I want to quantify what difference that made in my risk profile.
Yeah.
To me, that's a key. If we can measure, if I buy that from you, Mr. Vendor, and I measure the performance, measure how much it reduced my risk.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm going to buy something else. And to me, that's where it starts. And I think, a core value of all CISOs has got to be to quantify the return on their security investments. All right. Some do it well, in my experience. Some do it very well. And yet a large part of those don't do it at all.
Yeah.
You never ask a question you don't want to know the answer to.
Yeah.
You get the KPIs back and you think, oh, that didn't help at all. And I spent a lot of money on that. That's an embarrassing thing to have to deal with.
Yeah, you don't admit that, do you really?
Yeah, you don't. But, whether it's KPI for firewalls or for anti-malware or for a security awareness program, how much did I reduce the threat by implementing that control? To me, that's the key from businesses to quantify this is good money, and that could move the market. Because if you had those KPIs and you went back to your firewall vendor, your anti-malware provider, and you said, see, no difference whatsoever from last year. In fact, worse, you sold me something that didn't work. It's no better off than the rest of the market. I want my money back.
Yeah.
And that's what CISOs should be doing, and they are doing it. But I'm saying that's the key in my mind. That's at the intersection of change. Is the more a CISO can quantify the return on security investment, but it's what he or she does with that, and bring that back to the vendor to say, all right, see, I've been using this product for 3, 6, 9 months, 3, 6, 9 years, and it has done nothing to reduce my risks until that's engaged, that the buyers actually can bring back the evidence to say this flat screen TV doesn't work. I want my money back. Yeah. Vendors can just say, hey, you bought it, you configured it, you managed it.
I think having, like you said, quantifiable measure that you can go up against, I think is really, really important. What does some of them look like, would you say, to be able to?
KPIs? Yeah. Well, it depends on the product vendor, absolutely. Yeah. Whether that's port traffic, through a traffic through a port that shouldn't have it, every time. It all, the key performance indicator for whatever, how many malware signatures get picked up, above and beyond your malware, just a number. Hey, we got 16 infections, and this was updated. This is updated every 24 hours. Yeah. That means every 24 hours there's still 16 infection, virus applications out of what the market's currently, what the bad guys are throwing at us. So it all depends on the product, but it should be very, very simple. I mean, aligned to what your appetite is and why'd you buy the product? Did you buy the product, the firewall, to stop stop traffic through that port? Ingress, egress data, stop large amounts egressing or ingressing. It all depends on what the KPI, but 4 or 5 simple KPIs for every product should be minimum. Yeah. And then hold them and check them. And then when you do things like pen testing, you check your KPIs. Yeah. Pen test that firewall against these KPIs. Try to put this traffic through this port, et cetera. And that you're constantly validating those key performance indicators of the product that you bought. But, the short answer is it absolutely depends on the product, but very, very simple stuff is very effective.
Yeah. No, it makes sense, and it helps you make that decision whether you would like to continue with that vendor or you otherwise it's quite difficult to know, well, have I actually got worthy out of this, or have I actually just bought a product that has made no difference to what I was previously doing?
And take that message back to the vendor and say, you're selling me something that has no impact on my risk profile. Thanks very much. Yeah. Here's what I need. I'm going to go look for it. And
I think that's right. And I think if it's a vendor that understands the market, they will listen to that and they'll go, okay, how and talk to that customer and say, well, how can we improve? Like, what's the area that you might need it? Because more than likely, if there was one customer that needs to have improvements there, there's 50 more customers that need that improvement.
That's a great statement, Alex. And what we just said is look at how every conference I've been to in the last 30 years, the common denominator of the biggest problem we have is people. And so for me, the CISOs I work with, people. Technology is third on a very sophisticated CISO's view of it. He sees his people as the most vulnerable. Yeah. Have you seen anything from any vendor come out about, and when there's clearly money to be made there, and that's what I see as missing. Yeah, they have to be incentivized to make money. So why aren't we demanding, say, I need some better, better social engineering controls. I need things to keep an eye on people. The last time I saw us look at people, we dealt with them as a threat, and we called it insider threat. Yeah. And we started to log everything that they did, and it was spyware is what we were doing, is implementing spyware on our end users' devices to see what they were quote unquote up to, and predictive. Oh, wait a minute, here's Rich. He's in our Salesforce data and he's copying, he's downloading exporting an Excel spreadsheet, and he's opening up a Gmail account. That doesn't look good. That looks like a crime about to take place, but that was 10, 15 years ago.
So would you say that is probably the best way to go around?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's the last time that in my mind, I have seen a vendor come to say, hey, end users, controls, here's a perspective, here's technology. Yeah. And I remember there's a big fuss around there. And then it was, we started to see it as an intrusion on privacy, as what it was. It was spyware, but at the end of the day, whether it was predictive of what an end user would or wouldn't do, it was the last piece. It was the last vendor solution I saw that was wholeheartedly taken to the market to help us with one of the other three attack vectors are people. Yeah. Outside of that, and that was technology. That was so sexy insider threat technology that everybody had something. But at the end of the day, we weren't buying it because we were spying on our employees. Is what I feel at the end of the day, how that came and went so quickly. But just security awareness training. Have you seen anything?
Not really. I've seen a couple. I've seen one that was like an escape room type thing before and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I don't know how good they are and how much they actually improve the understanding.
Where's the KPIs? Yeah, so using my same thing. You need KPIs for that as well to say, okay, here's my people before, here's them after, and I've seen improvement, and here's over time, and I've seen improvement or not, and that's what I'm saying. Whatever it does, it needs to be measured. But just general thinking, I've seen escape rooms. It's great idea, fine. There's a lot of, but there, in my mind, Alex, it's a small idea.
Yeah.
That it's like bringing a magician into the room and he's, and you've got somebody's attention for 10 minutes and then he's gone. They're going to forget how cool that card trick was. And life goes on. I'm saying how to get in their heads and stay in their heads, not how to get their attention and have them pass a cool afternoon. Now, if you can quantify that cool afternoon into changeable behavior and measure that behavior, great. I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen it yet. I'd love to. I'd love to because I'm a big believer in investing in people. I think it is the place to put the money. I'm tired of saying the same thing about technology. I would love to invest the same amount of money we invest in technology in our people and see the difference. 1 year. Just give me 1 year and see for me, a seismic shift in the problem.
Yeah. No, and I agree. I think, we just don't see it, do we? We don't see the investment there. And I think, like you said, it does come down to how profitable that area is really. Yep. And if the budget, there's meant to be a third and a third and a third, then there should theoretically be a budget there. But when it's most likely 95, 96%, 99% towards technology, there isn't kind of the profit to be made in the people that probably could be there. And if it was there, there'd be more and more people doing it. And I think we'd potentially, hopefully, see a decrease in breaches. But no, I think it's been a really, really good conversation, Richard. Really enjoyed talking about and that kind of three areas, the technology, process, and people. I think it's been really interesting to understand that area. I want to thank you for your time. I think it's been a really, really good conversation, and thanks for coming on the show.
It's been a load off my shoulders that I've left you with. No, thanks, Alex. I appreciate it. It was great to chat, and I hope I didn't come across as too negative.
Not at all. Not at all. I think it's a conversation that's probably not had enough.
Yeah.
And I think talking about, like you said, the responsibility of other companies like LG or them companies that sell TVs, and they have a responsibility to sell you a product that works and that it's going to show something on the screen. And when it does come to cybersecurity, there isn't that kind of commitment to make sure that it works. I don't think. I think the vendors that do that, I think they're vendors that are probably a bit smaller ones and not quite the big ones, because they understand that we need to do something different to make sure that everybody does well. And I think these big ones make that much kind of profit that, okay, well, you don't like it, but it doesn't matter. We've got 5,000 other customers that do like it.
Yeah. No, we need change. And that's my message today. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about
thanks for coming on.
Change starts with us. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for watching.